we all know someone or some family that mental illness will affect, whether or not they tell or share that or not, because, it's a stigma for us to discuss mental illness.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Patrice Penni McClammy is the incumbent for Alabama House District 76. She is a Democrat. Penny, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us on the Valley Labor Report.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah. So let's start off with, I know that your father was the last one to hold your seat. Is he the reason that you got into politics? Like, is that what is his influence kind of what motivated you to be involved civically?
You know what? I have to say my father and my mother, growing up, I started working with the Democrats probably when I was in elementary school. My parents were both community servants. And at that time, my father was the president of a technical college, Toronto Technical College. And so I was always involved in some type of community and political activities and events that was going on. I tell people my first venture into politics was probably around second, third grade, when I used to hand out flyers at the polls, especially in the primaries when I was out of school. And I remember when I grew up, and I'm still honored today when they asked me to be a poll watcher. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have moved up to be a poll watcher after all of these years. So I was too excited. I'm excited to this day. You see how much that meant to me, from going outside and handing out flyers to be able to go inside. So, like I said, my mother and my father have always been community servants and activists in our community and throughout the state. And I was born and raised in it. My father did serve over almost 30 years in the legislature, and he passed last year this time. So it was an honor to be able to step into as a legacy, to step into his position as a legislature House representative.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so, you mentioned that he passed away last year, and you kind of stepped into his seat, and so this is going to be you're the incumbent, but this is going to be your first general election as the Democratic nominee. Is that right?
It is. We had a special election last year after his passing. I was unopposed in the primary and in the general, so therefore I was sworn in last November. And afterwards, seems like I'm frozen, but okay.
I can
afterwards,
hear you.
Huh?
I can hear you. You're coming through fine. I don't have video feedback where I'm at, but as
okay,
far
I'm
as
sorry
I can hear you fine.
Okay. But yes, after my father's passing, we had a swearing in. I was sworn in because I was unopposed in the special election. I was unopposed in the primary. And actually, my father and I had decided 3 years ago that he was going to retire and I would be running in for his position. So this is something that we worked hard together preparing for this. And I always say it's bittersweet because I always thought when it was time for me to be sworn in, he would be right by my side. But I know he's here in my heart. And this time I do have an opponent that I found out late of May that is a Libertarian. So this, as you stated, this is my first time in the general.
I saw that, and I'm interested in what your take on that is, because I saw that somewhere said, claiming that the Libertarians have more Democrats on the the Libertarians have more candidates on the ballot than Democrats in Alabama in November.
Right.
So what is up with that?
Well, I think that they are trying to have their own party and have a more stronger recognition within the state with their own party. And what a way to start that, by having their people on the ballot across the state. We actually have two opponents here in the Montgomery County. Excuse me, my adopted dog. I'm sitting here making squeaky toys. So.
No worries.
As a father of a little
I'm
puppy,
trying to grab it and be
I
like, will you stop?
I know your struggle.
So, before we get more into policy stuff, you've got a radio program down in Montgomery. Talk to us about that.
I do. It's called Putting It on the Table, 102.7 WKXN with Roscoe Miller, Killer Dealer. He's the owner of the station. My father actually started this show, gosh, probably back in 2000. We used to do live television. We went from live television to recorded television and to radio and to a podcast. And so it's called Putting It on the Table. And it's every Friday at noon, in which we bring on guests to educate the community on what's going on, what's available. We recently had a show on mental health and mental illness in the community and ways that our community can get assistance if they have any problems. We had the probate judge on and also the sheriff of the Montgomery County. So my show is more so informative to just let the people know what's going on and what services are here that can be provided for you. And we do that every Friday at noon, and we also go live on Facebook with that.
Okay. Yeah, and we were talking. My fiance was down with me when I was at the Alabama AFL-CIO convention, and we talked at Sazaz, and we were talking about mental health, and that seemed like something that you had a particular interest in as a legislator.
I do. Actually, I'm an attorney also, and so I have practiced in the capacity with the the capacity of commitment hearings, representing those who have been petitioners and those who are respondents. And I've actually served as temporary judge in those commitment hearings. So I've been on all three sides of the mental illness legal side of it.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, I always tell people mental illness is something that affects all of us. Someone, if it's not someone in your family, it's someone next doors, our neighbors, our church members, that we all know someone or some family that mental illness will affect, whether or not they tell or share that or not, because, it's a stigma. It's been a long-term stigma for us to discuss mental illness. And now I want to try to play my role in not making it something shameful to discuss, but for us to come together and assist and be aware of the conditions, aware of the symptoms, and then also make sure that we do our part to ensure that we have facilities available that can help those who need the help. We closed down a lot of mental facilities and institutions a few years ago. And so some has worked for the in-home outpatient care programs that we have, but it's a lot more that we need to do. So that's something that I do want to work close with the Department of Mental Health and also with our local delegations. And also our, matter of fact, I just met with one of the organizations the other day, this morning, and talked with them about some things that they have going on and how we can all come together in a partnership for our people.
Right. And, that's a good place to segue into your role as a legislator. In, the state house, everybody that's listening is going to know that that Democrats are a super minority in the state legislature, in both houses, in the Senate and the House. And so what is your role? What ought the Democrats' role be as a super minority? What can you do? What should you be doing, I guess?
Well, I think that we can do a lot. First of all, it's about communication and working with each other. As being a super minority, we know we don't even have to show up and they can pass a bill, basically. But I think us being able to work across the lines, work with each other, we may not share the same politics on every issue, but there are some things that we can discuss, negotiate to make it not as harsh as it could be. And that's our role that we play in the Democratic Party. is trying to work with them, and then be assertive in what we want for our community. Because usually a lot of times we share the same thoughts. It just may be different actions that we want to take to get to that point.
Well, and you know,
So
the being assertive, I wonder about that. But and how do you feel about messaging bills? It doesn't seem to me like that's something that, you know, Alabama Democrats have been that they do a lot. But is that something that you think that Democrats in Alabama should be doing more of?
I think that's something that the Democrats have discussed, and that we will be seeing more of. So I think those are things that we will be, that I've been in meetings recently, and that's been a main discussion. So I'm pretty sure we'll be seeing messaging bills soon in the
What is
session.
what would be the role of messaging bills for you, for the Democrats?
Well, to get the message out, and let the people know, the message of the bill itself, also bringing about public support, community support, and organizational support. So it's a better understanding of how that bill affects you. And so that's the importance in my role. And I believe that messaging bills may work to make it more personable to our community and bring everyone on board full force.
And I think that it can also, you know, it seems to me that one good way to use those would be to put the majority on their heels for a bit and make them defend as opposed to always being on the defense yourself. And one of the things that really kind of seems like an obvious thing to me that didn't happen in the last session was, you know, y'all were able to beat the anti-protest bill, which was great. And, you
Right.
know, I commend y'all's efforts on that. But it seemed like there was a missed opportunity to tie the fight by the Republicans to restrict the ability of working class Alabamians to protest. You know, there was a missed opportunity, it seemed to me, to tie it to the miners' strike and, you know, to take up that cause as you're fighting a more general attack on freedom of speech and make, you know, make the Republicans defend their attacks on speech, because they, especially in the last 5 years or so, it seems like Republicans have really been interested in pretending that they care about freedom of speech. And so it would have been interesting to me, it seems like, to put out a bill that says, you know, that like a constitutional speech bill or something like that, that would remove the judge's authority to, you know, to put that injunction on the miners and to limit municipalities' authority to restrict protests and stuff like that, and make the Republicans defend as opposed to having to defend yourself. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's what I was saying earlier. I totally agree with that. And with those messaging bills, it's important to reach out to our community and our organizations and let them be aware of what these bills are really entailing. I think, you know, by using your radio station that you have and my radio station, talk shows, and others, and going out to the different, like the unions, going out to the neighborhood associations, and giving them the message of how these bills are personally hurtful, to able to get them to the polls to vote for the right people to be in the office. And as you say, once the people really understand what the bills are about, then we have a better job with with a support, a stronger support to go towards the Republicans and say, look, we have all these people here. You're going to tell them this is what you're doing, even though this is the support that we have. And that's one thing that I try to encourage our people, our community, engaging in our public hearings. So that way they are there, they are making a statement, and you have to look them in the eye and see what you're doing and how you are disregarding the feelings of the citizens of Alabama.
Adam, you said that you saw something earlier about Penny pre-filing some bills. What have you got plans to pre-file some bills in the next session?
Yes, actually, it was last year that I started working on legislation. Last session, dealing with the removal of tax off of groceries, the sales tax off of groceries, and also offer over-the-counter medication. Because me, I have a history of being a caregiver for over 15 years to my family. That was my primary role. And I knew the hardships of making decisions of, going to the doctor, paying the medications, paying the extra essentials that you need, such as your depends, your insure, your pads to take care of your family members, and making decisions on how you pay your bills, how you pay for where you get this type of food, the healthy food, which costs a little bit more. And so that's one thing that I want to do. I did take my time with filing that bill because I want to get it right. That's the bill that has been introduced several years. And I really want to take time to get it right when I file it, so that we can have the support, as I said, once again, of our organizations and of the community to say, this is needed. In addition to that, we found that although we may have removed a portion of the state tax, that did not exclude the county and the city taxes on the grocery bill. So that's something we need to make a concerted effort, is to reach out to our city and county officials to see if we can get that buy-in to eliminate the tax altogether, so we won't have taxes on our groceries and our medication and our over-the-counter medications.
That is something that is totally perplexing to me. And I'm sure that you've had several conversations with your Republican colleagues about this, and about how it just seems so obvious to me that if you actually care about, taxes just as a general kind of policy, the first one that you're going to want to get rid of is the one that affects the most people, and the most people that are the least well off. It just, if that's your policy, then the grocery tax is the first one to go after. But 10 years on, 12 years on, after they first came into the majority, we're still taxing groceries in Alabama.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
they just
ma'am.
passed a business tax cut in the last session, but they haven't had the time to pass a grocery tax cut. And how do they justify that to you?
Well, they say that they want to work together to get this done. And so, we will continue to communicate on this, because like I always tell people, this is not a Democratic issue. This is not a Republican issue. This is an American issue. This is an Alabamian issue, that I don't care what social income you are in, from lower to middle to upper middle to higher. It affects all of us, because at some point, I always say, especially using my examples of taking care of my family, at some point you have to make decisions on how to take care of your loved ones. And it's a challenge, because once loved ones retire, their checks aren't the same. They go down in how much they bring a month. And that's, like I said, that's not a Democratic issue. It's Alabama. It's a citizens issue. And so I think that we're doing more harm when we have our people, our community, and our citizens out there trying to make decisions on food, medication, and over-the-counter prescriptions. So that's the speech that I keep pointing out to people. The speech that I made to organizations is that we need to work together on this. This is, like I said, it's not one-sided issue. It's an all of us issue. I'm hopeful that we can do that, because I did see more push for this last year in the legislature from the Republican side. And it's just a matter of us sitting down and making a decision on how to get there, I think. I think we all want the same thing, but it's a matter of how to get to that point, which way we go. So that's why I have not completely filed that legislation, because I want more bipartisan support on it.
What do you see? What do you see coming down the pike in the next quadrennium after the election is over?
That's like looking into a glass ball, trying to tell the future. I say that because we have a lot of representatives that retired, that resigned and do not want to run for office again. So we're going to have a big mixture of new legislators next month. Back in March next year, and so it's going to be interesting to get to meet our new colleagues that will be coming in after November. And I think we can get a better idea of what this may look like at that time. But I'm hopeful. I'm always hopeful.
All right. Well, Penni McClammy, is there anything anything that you wanted to make sure that you were able to communicate to our audience?
Well, I want to communicate to the audience that I'm here. I always tell people my district is District 76, but I represent the citizens of Alabama. My phone number is 334-414-7345. I only have one phone. So feel free to call me if there's anything that you need. If there's anything I can do or direct, I'll try my best to get something done. And I look forward to having you on the show.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank y'all.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.